Hey guys, Xaryu here, and today I have some Disc Priest gameplay for you guys, and I'm playing some Disc Priest Arcane Mage, and I'm not the Arcane Mage, I'm the Disc Priest, and we're playing against a Discipline Priest and a Feral Druid. So this matchup, obviously very difficult. The Feral, just so much spread pressure, and Ferals are so good in twos right now. I quickly want to go over my spec. I'm going Castigation instead of Twist of Fate. This is the one where I've played both talents against this composition, and both of them seem good, right? Castigation helps me heal through the spread pressure. Twist of Fate helps me pick us up when we dip. So it's almost like if the game goes really long, Twist of Fate is better and better because dampening gets higher. We're going to be lower HP, then we're getting a 20% increased damage and healing. And Castigation, if the game's shorter or mid-length, feels a little bit better. So it's almost like a bet on these two. Masochism for that damage reduction and that heal. Psychic Voice for the shorter cooldown on fear. Solace for mana regeneration, damage, and healing. Sanctuary, actually, instead of Clarity, to keep up that smite pressure and the absorption shields. Purge the Wicked and Grace. I don't know if I go for my Honor Talents quickly before this game starts. But my Honor Talents, very kind of like a standard build for Discipline Priest here on 12 Run Arena. So number one thing, guys, we're playing Atonement. I guess that's the one kind of thing that I would like to mention instead of we're playing Trinity for those Atonement healings. So we're going to do a lot of damage and get a lot of healing in return for that damage. And I kind of want to go over that playstyle with you guys today because the number one question I get on my Disc Priest every time in the comments, whether I'm streaming or on YouTube, is when am I using my damage to heal and when am I using my damage or my healing to actually heal? So in twos, guys, a lot of the time you're going to be using your damage to heal, right? Because the value of doing that damage and pressuring the enemy team so that they have to keep up the healing is so great. So right away, my mage actually pushes behind the pillar, ferals on me for a little bit here, and I'm throwing out the atonements onto both myself and to my mage, and then I'm going to be using a shield on cooldown. I'm going to be using penance on cooldown. I'm going to be using Solace on cooldown. If all three of those are on cooldown, then I'm going to be spamming Smite, and if I get kicked, that is when I'm going to Shadow Mend, okay? So once again, Shield on cooldown, Penance on cooldown, Solace on cooldown, Purge the Wicked on both players. I forgot to mention that. Purge the Wicked on both players, and then Smite, and then if you get kicked, cast that Shadow Mend. So as you're going to see, I do get kicked, casting a couple Shadow Mends. We can throw out the shields to keep that on cooldown. Get that Solace on cooldown, get the Purge the Wicked out onto the Feral Druid, throw that Shadow Mend out once just to catch up on healing a little bit, but we're spamming Smites now to heal us and pressure the enemy team. We have that Purge the Wicked out, we have the Atonement on both players, using that Penance as soon as it comes up, using that Shield as soon as it comes up, refreshing the Atonements with that Plea, grip my partner back there, throwing out the shield, throwing out another shield. Looks like I pop Rapture there, so I can throw out a couple more shields here. Mage is getting quite low. Can throw out that Pain Suppression, have that Power the Dark Side proc, so I can actually do a huge heal from my next go here. Huge Penance there. That's Castigation, Power the Dark Side through Atonement. But all of my penances this game have been offensive penances, and that is because, guys, we're both 50% life. If I deal damage with a penance and it's going to heal us 20% more through that atonement, it's going to do more healing if I do an offensive penance because it's healing both of us. Now, if it was only my mage being targeted, I'm 100% life, only my mage being targeted, I could think about using a defensive penance in this situation, which means to penance my mage for a heal. However, when I'm penancing the feral, it's creating pressure and healing both of us. So right now it's infinitely better to use my penance offensively. Throwing out a couple Shadow Mends just to get that Masochism buff on myself as well to reduce that damage. Once again, guys, Purge the Wicked you always want. So Purge the Wicked on the enemy target is going to 1, create pressure. 2, it's going to give you power to the dark side procs. 3, it's going to deal damage, so it's going to heal you and your partner through that atonement healing, right? 3 insanely good benefits from using Purge the Wicked. And if that priest pushes in at all, I can Purge the Wicked both of them, dealing even more pressure, more healing, and give me more procs. So we definitely want to keep an eye out for that. Using Shadow Mend here and there, using that Penance on cooldown. That Solace is off cooldown. There we go. We use it. Re-Purge the Wicked on the Feral Druid right there. Casting those Smites. It's just a rotation, man. Like, once you get this rotation down for Disc Priest, a lot of your games, at least against other healer DPS composition, so not double DPS. We'll actually look at a double DPS game after. Is going to look very, very similar, right? You're maximizing your damage. You're spamming out as much damage as possible. You're healing mainly through atonement, and you're pressuring the enemy team. So we're throwing out that shield there. I do get feared. I could push in and get that fear. It looks like I do actually do that. And one question you might have is like, why aren't you going for more fears? And guys, the major reason I'm not pushing into this priest and fearing on cooldown is, one, if I'm moving, I can't cast smite. If I'm not casting smite, I'm not doing pressure. If I'm not doing pressure, I'm not healing. If I'm not casting smite, I'm not getting that absorption effect. If I'm moving at all, I'm doing less effective damage and less effective healing. And then we're going to both rot and we're going to both die. So if I push in for a fear, it could be a situation like that where I push in with the penance, get the fear, then continue to smite. That can be okay sometimes, but it's not something I'm going to overextend to try to do. Number one priority is keeping up that damage, keeping up that pressure, right? Especially when you're playing with a mage where he's arcane. He's arcane explosioning both. We can really kill both at the same time. If we get a poly into a fear, that's great, but it's not something that we have to overextend and try to do. So I'm not playing Twist of Fate, so anytime we go below 35% life, I'm like keeping an eye on that. I'm like, oh, could have, if I was playing Twist there, throwing out that Archangel for the big healing. So this was actually like the biggest penance ever, right? We had the Archangel, we had the Power of the Dark Side, we had Castigation Penance, we had Atonement on both players, 20% increased healing, and we just smacked out that penance, biggest penance ever. And that's gonna heal us for a ton, right? Getting a couple Shadow Men's out right there to get that Masochism buff. Once again, Feral's getting very low, continuing to do those offensive penances, offensive heals here. Pushing in a little bit, might be a little bit greedy here. Don't really need to. Continue spamming Smite here is probably the play, instead of pushing in and maybe getting myself CC'd. I still have Will if the Priest does decide to fear me though. Keeping those atonements up, very, very important. Obviously, you don't want those atonements to actually not be up because then you're going to waste all of your healing. Have another Power of the Dark Side proc, keeping up the Purge the Wicked as much as I can. Throw out the Fear onto the Priest. Looks like he's actually going to sit it. Throwing a couple Shadow Men's out. Have that Shadow Fiend available. Should be using that on cooldown as well. I do actually use it. Good job, Xaryu. Good job, Xaryu. Get that Purge the Wicked up. Using my Solas once again. Mage is actually getting pretty low here, so this is actually a pretty scary moment in the match. My Mage might have to Ice Block, catch a big heal onto him. Couple Shadow Men's out. I'm very low on mana, but we do... Actually, that full sheep does... looks like it gets death or broken there. Yeah, it looks like the death. There's so much damage coming on the Feral. Dampening's really high. They try to run, but the Feral does eventually go down. So that's kind of the playstyle, guys. That is the playstyle right there. Tons of offensive pressure. Get the CC when you can, but don't overextend for it. Continually spam Smite. Continually use the Penance and Shield. Continually have that Purge the Wicked up. One criticism of my own gameplay is I could have used Light's Wrath more this game. I don't know if I used it at all. Maybe I used it only once if I did use it. So the reason I don't use it just every time it's up is because... Feral Druids are so slippery. They see the Light's Wrath cast, they can go behind the pillar, and they line it. So it's almost like less effective than just spamming out 2 or 3 smites and having the Feral not line it, right? It's like, it's one of those things where like, oh, I'm going to try to avoid it. So, but having said that, I should still be able to get it off more than, I think I only got it 0 or 1 time. So this is the damage breakdown at the end of the game. Feral Druid is topping, but if you actually combine the Mage damage and my damage, because we're both on the same team, I think we're actually very similar or even higher than the Feral plus the Priest. So math was pretty hard there. 40, 50, 60, 69, 72, and they did 76. So we actually did a little bit less, but the effective healing plus our sheeps and fears kind of combined there is pretty solid. But that's what you guys wanted to focus on, so you guys want to do. Let's hop into another game where we're looking at double DPS. All right, guys, this is a game against double DPS. So Destro Lock, Subrug, these guys can reset for quite some time. And in this match, I'm not playing Trinity. I'm not playing... like all of the kind of just damage spec that I was doing. I'm back to Clarity. I'm not using this Might spec, right? I'm just using a very basic build here. What I'm trying to do is just, I want to keep up offensive pressure. I still want to get those Purge the Wickeds out, but I'm using a lot more defensive penances when I can, or when my Mage is in a ton of trouble. Number one, they're not killing both of us. I don't need to use offensive penances if they're on just one target, right? Because I can get more effective healing from the penance if I just do it on one. Number two, it's more about survival here. If we can just survive, we win the game because they don't have a healer. So that does mean if I can get those penances, if I can greed those penances and get some damage out of it, it's fantastic, but keeping my Mage alive is first priority. So if my Mage is 80 or 90%, I would love to do offensive penances and just heal through atonement. It would top them off anyway, and we get some free damage out of it. Purge the Wicked, though, definitely very high priority here. Getting those power of the dark side procs and keeping the rogue just not be able to continually re-stealth, right? So very important to get some damage out here when I can. So the Warlock pet's coming in. If I could get a dot on him, would be great. That blind comes out. I don't have a trinket because I actually used my will, so this is going to be probably the ice block for my mage. So that was a good block there for my mage, who was also the smoke bomb from the rogue. Rogue's already going for a re-stealth. My mage is chasing him down. Now I'm getting spam feared. Haven't moved in like 30 seconds from this enemy team here. Looks like my mage does an incredible job kiting there. Once again, using a defensive penance. So in this game, we're using less smites, more defensive penances. Playing way more defensive and not just spamming damage. We're really focused. It's almost like a threes match. Really focused on just staying alive instead of literally being a second DPS like we were in that last match. So it's completely different play style. And I guess that's kind of the question people have. When am I playing defensive and playing like a healer like this game? And when am I spamming out a lot of damage? Against double DPS, guys, you're just surviving. You're playing like a healer. You're avoiding CC when you can. You're using a lot of defensive penances. Unless you're okay. If you're okay, then you can throw out those offensive penances to actually start pressuring the enemy team. But survival comes first, right? Using those defensive cooldowns, definitely much more important. Getting those Purge the Wickeds out, really good. So like right here, we're both full HP. You use that offensive penance, you put that Purge the Wicked. Creating a little bit more offensive pressure, very important. Because, once again, they have no healer. So if we actually just kill them, it's GG. Now the rogue opens up onto me. Chaos Bolt being casted. I'm getting very low here, and it looks like I'm going to have to trinket the kidney shot to actually survive. The Blood Elf Silence comes out. I'm actually getting very low, down to 22% life, spamming out their shields. By the way, I am Twist of Fate as well, not Castigation, and that's because they're killing us in bursts, right? So that is the play there, and I'm not Trinity either, so running Shadow Word Death or Premonition to actually break that CC when I can. And I'm also playing Vim because I know they're going to CC me. So my entire build is completely different and kind of geared around maximizing heals and just keeping us alive until my mage can actually kill the enemy team. Throwing out an offensive penance there. Once again, my mage is full life. I can afford an offensive penance. Now they're doing a big go into me. Mage sheeps the Warlock. Beautiful sheep there, keeping myself alive. That Cloak of Shadows comes out on the rogue. Warlock trinkets out of that polymorph into another re-polymorph. But now look, they're both full HP and they're both just running and running and running and running and running. It's very difficult for us to actually land anything. Spreading out the dots, trying to get that rogue, but he does get that re-stealth. The seduction coming out of my mage as well. Trying to fear everything here probably. Yeah, go for that AoE fear. That was kind of a waste of a grip there on my mage. Warlock gates away, and once again, this is a kind of a game of they're running around. They're trying to just survive because they don't have a healer. And what... that looks like the rogue accidentally gated there on that kidney shot. I don't think he actually meant to. But since they don't have a healer, they're just running and surviving, and we're playing and pushing in. Right here, I actually do Shadow Word Death, the blind, or Premonition, the blind. I'll go ahead and rewind that. So rogue's very close. I don't have Trinket for 35 because I had to Trinket to save myself, which is very unfortunate. I know they want to blind me, right? If they blind me, they win the game because they'll blind into sap, into coils, and the fears, and I'll never move, right? So I'm expecting it. Rogue comes up. Rogue kicks my mage. Since my mage is kicked, I know they want to do a go onto my mage. Warlock's coming in to start some damage onto my mage. This is where you Shadow Word Death. Boom, Death the Blind. It really makes sense if you slow it down. It's just sometimes in the heat of the moment, it's difficult to see. But once again, my mage is full HP, so this is where I could throw out some offensive... there was even a smite there, an offensive smite there. Get a beautiful mass invis there onto the coil, so they can't really set up out of it. The Warlock uses his wall. Once again, the enemy team is continually running. If we overextend too much, though, just run right at them, then we get spam feared, coiled, and then they set up off of that, and then it's very unfortunate. But here, the rogue finally does get caught. Gets that Nether Tempest on him, gets that Purge the Wicked on him, and does eventually leave the game. So that's a game against double DPS, guys. Played it completely different. Defensive penances, defensive spec, playing Vim, because I know they just want to CC me and kill my mage. So completely different play style. Both games we came out in a win, so it's not like, oh, only use penance offensively or only use it defensively, but hopefully that will help you decide when to use it and which way. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that video breakdown of Discipline Priest in 2v2. Give it a thumbs up if you did, thumbs it down if you didn't. And yeah, like I said earlier in this video, everybody asks me when to be using the penance defensively and when to be using it offensively. So hopefully after this video, you guys know a little bit more onto how to use that ability and just how to heal as a Disc Priest through atonements instead of just spamming out Shadow Mends into things that you can afford to do so. Guys, don't forget to subscribe. I do videos like this a couple times a week here on the channel, so don't forget to hit that sub button. I'll see you guys in the next upload. Peace.